Hello everyone, welcome back to Spinning Iris, and it's the end of the year and I thought I'd share what I read this year. Some of the highs and the lows, the goods and some of the not so goods. I didn't really read anything that was completely terrible this year, mostly because I'm a mood reader and I don't read things that don't interest me usually. My stack is probably not going to be as tall as some other booktubers out there. So let's start with some of the new classics that I read this year. I, of course, read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. That was for Victober. And I also read A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Saving the Baskervilles for another time. Let's see, some of the classics that I reread this year. Let's see, John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Not sure if this is technically a classic, but it's, let's see, I think it was 1937? Yeah, 1937, so it's a classic for me. And, of course, Candide by Voltaire. Got a couple of videos for those two coming up. Hopefully I get around to them soon. And, of course, Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol, which I read for Christmas. Also a random poem that I read for Victober. And, of course, Two on a Tower. I listened to that audiobook for Victober's Stitch Along, in my case, Knit Along. Let's see. Of the audiobook classics that I read was Bram Stoker's Dracula, the abridged version. I hate abridged books. Stick that there. I did, of course, read some newer books. Newer. The newest one in this stack, well, the two newest in this stack were from 2019. So these are within the last 10 years. Oldest in this stack, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Just finished that one, really good. Nora Roberts' The Obsession. See, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This one was definitely a surprise this year. I won't give anything away, but imagine Downton Abbey meets Agatha Christie meets Quantum Leap. Yes, I said Quantum Leap. So if you enjoy a bit of sci-fi and a bit of mystery, you'll probably enjoy this. And then, of course, Life and Limb by Jennifer Robertson. Can't wait for book 2 to come out to see how the twist at the end resolves itself, if it resolves itself. And then Nora Roberts' Undercurrents. See how long it takes for this to topple over. Okay. Then we have the 4 books that started off my banned book series, which I will be continuing with Candide and Of Mice and Men very soon, hopefully this coming January. We have Anne Rice's Sleeping Beauty Saga, The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty, Beauty's Punishment, Beauty's Release, and Beauty's Kingdom. For some reason I don't have book 1 in hardback. Okay. And then, of course, for banned book week, I did Sherman Alexie's The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. Really good, really emotional. Alright. I'm going to move Dracula. Oh no. Dracula's gonna kill this tower. Okay. Let's see. And also read Gregory Maguire's 7 Spiders Spinning. This is technically a kid's book, but I like Gregory Maguire's style, and this was a lot of fun to read. And then I guess for new classics, I found a Perry Mason mystery, The Dubious Bridegroom by Earl Stanley Gardner. There's recently a new miniseries about Perry Mason, which is definitely different from the old TV show, but definitely worth a watch if you like a good mystery. It is rather dark. This is a lot more like the show, but it's adult is not quite the right word, because there's no sex or nudity, no profanity, but it is a good mystery. I'm not sure how to talk about that. Okay. And also for new classics, we have The King Must Die by Mary Renault. This is a story about Theseus, basically his young years before he became king. I previously read her novel The Bull from the Sea, which is the sequel to this one. Didn't realize that when I read it at the time. Yeah, if you like stories about old Greek mythology or anything Greek in general, this is definitely worth a read. It is old, too. This is published in 1958. Mary Renault is an interesting author as well. Like all good authors, she did her research on this one. So for J.D. Robb's In Death, I did a re-listen of J.D. Robb's Naked in Death. This is book 1 of the In Death series, where we are introduced to Eve Dallas, our lead detective, and her future husband, Rourke, just Rourke, Irish bajillionaire. And if you saw my big Nora Roberts haul earlier this year, you saw that I grabbed Glory in Death, which I finished last month. Here in this one, we're back with Eve and Rourke. Their relationship is slowly getting stronger, and we meet Officer Peabody, who eventually becomes Eve's partner. A man could do a great deal of damage to a woman if he wanted or needed her badly enough. The description on the back of this book doesn't really do it justice. And if you are curious about the In Death series, the audiobooks are really good. Just don't buy them abridged. Do not buy them abridged. Don't. Susan Erickson is the narrator, and she's really good. And the other one I read earlier this year was Portrait in Death. This one was a bit of a tearjerker in places. In this one, get a little bit more of Rourke and his family connections. Hence the tears. Yes. Real good. So good. Don't fall. And for sci-fi fantasy, I of course covered Harry Harrison's Skyfall. Not James Bond related at all, no. Just a nice piece of science fiction from the 70s. Oh, cool. There's my cloak receipt in there. And for fantasy, we have Fable, the Balvarine Order, written by Peter David. And this is based on the worldwide video game phenomenon. I am not at all familiar with Fable, but this story was a lot of fun. Bought from Borders back when. And Balvarines are a bit like Wolverines in some respect. In a land without heroes, there are two choices. Find one, or become one. The days of magic and myth are fading away, giving way to the age of industry and science. As the aged last hero sits upon the throne of Albion, two friends, the privileged Thomas and his loyal servant James, set out for the east in search of a legendary beast, the vicious, rarely seen Balvarine. But their desire for adventure may be their ultimate undoing. If you're not familiar with Peter David, he is, I guess, famous for his Star Trek novels. At least for me, that's how I found him, especially the ones involving the famous Q. But yeah, for a novel based on a video game that I'm not familiar with, again, this was quite entertaining. I can definitely see how it could be a video game, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a video game while you're reading it. Yeah. And on this one, and there's this one. This one was probably one of the more disappointing novels that I read this year. Frederick Forsyth's The Phantom of Manhattan. This one I will have a video on. It's a special book. I have words, which I will save. Don't fall. And for another book that I, listened to again this year was Sharp's Tiger by Bernard Cornwell. Unabridged, of course. Read by Frederick Davidson. This is Sharp's first adventure. In India. No. Oh. Nice bit of Napoleonic history. Is it Napoleonic? Yeah. Nice bit of early Napoleonic history, English versus French in India. Let's see. Richard Sharp and the Siege of Seringapatam, 1799. Nice bit of history. Of course, our lovely author, Mr. Cornwell, does take some liberties with his characters, of course, but historically it is mostly accurate. Let's see, there are 3 other audiobooks that I listened to this year. The best of those 3, this one, I had never read Louis L'Amour before, so I decided to listen to one of the audiobooks that my dad had. This is To Tame a Land. It's, of course, a Western. It follows the main character in typical Western fashion. Our main character's father's killed in an Indian raid, and he's taken in by a mysterious stranger. And it's basically this young man's journey into adulthood. And, yeah. Let's see. It's read by Jason Culp, who does a rather nice job of reading this. If you like Westerns, it's not too long. It's definitely worth a listen. Unabridged, of course. And I also listened to Michael Connolly's The Overlook. This is a Harry Bosch novel read by Len Cariou. With original music by Frank Morgan. I've not read any other Michael Connolly books, so I was interested to see what this was like. I think I would have liked this book a bit more if I had read it for myself. I do like a good detective novel and mystery novel, and unfortunately I'm jumping into Harry Bosch kind of, I guess, in the middle of his career. I'm not familiar with his personality. Much like jumping into J.D. Robb's In Death series in the middle of it. Don't know who any of the characters are, what they're like, what their pet peeves or their personality is like. That's kind of what this was for me. It's not bad at all. It does have some of the post-9/11 isms in it, but definitely entertaining. Not the worst of the books I've read this year, or listened. Unfortunately, I'd have to say the worst book that I listened to this year was Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Lidwig. It's not that it was badly written. I just don't like the main character. And the whole story, unfortunately, hit a little too close to home to what's going on in the world right now. Not that animals are going berserk and murdering people, just some of the situations in general that are happening in here. Like at one point, people are hunkering down, staying indoors, and there's a shortage of toilet paper. But yeah, this one was definitely a disappointment. The best character in the book was a chimpanzee. And the best moments in the book were from the point of view of the animals. I take it back. There is a character later on that we see briefly in India, I believe as a cop, and I was listening to this and wondering, why weren't we following this guy? He seems more interesting than this scientist who's figuring all this stuff out. Yeah, it's full of a lot of cliches and just it's just kind of forgettable. I say forgettable because when I was listening to this, I realized I was about a third of the way through and realized that I had already listened to this. I had forgotten. That's how bad it is. It's just so forgettable. But yeah. Worst book of the year for me. I'm not sure if this is typical of James Patterson or Michael Lidwig. I'd have to see for myself, because I have not read any James Patterson before. Something bad is happening out there. Something very bad. So bad it's boring, forgettable. Time magazine said this was an epic non-stop thrill ride from one of the best of the best. I have no doubt he's one of the best writers out there. He's definitely one of the most prolific out there. I would not say that this is epic or non-stop. And it's only thrilling when the animals are actually killing people. Spoiler. Like you care. But for me, the hero of this year in terms of books, all of these books I enjoyed. Even Wuthering Heights, to a certain degree, I enjoyed. The real hero of the year is, I guess you'd call her a graphic novelist. Don't you fall. For me, the literary hero of the year is Rumiko Takahashi and her series Urusei Yatsura. I say that because this is one of the few things that got me through this year, made me happy this year, calmed me down this year when everything felt like a mess. Volumes 1 through 4 came out last year, but I reread them again several times this year, always waiting for the next one to come out. That's probably why I didn't read a lot of regular literature this year, because I was too busy soothing myself with this hilarious classic. Volumes 5 through 8 came out starting in February. Volume 8 coming out just last month in November. The next one will probably be February if we're following the standard. Urusei Yatsura. This is I believe this was Takahashi's first full series. It follows Ataru Moroboshi and the beautiful space alien Loom. She's adorable and brutal, as she is beautiful. Ataru is a different kind of hero. Typically the womanizer is a supporting character and not the main character. Love the cover art on this one. Loom is definitely the focus of a lot of this, but Ataru is probably gets most of the attention since he is obviously the main character. I was so happy when I saw this on the bookshelves at Barnes & Noble. I was praying that someday they would re-release this, and I was so happy when I saw it. I also noticed recently that Viz Media has also re-released Mermaid Saga and Maison Ikkoku, which I may or may not rebuy. I've found some older volumes at used bookstores. I'd have to look at them to see if I want to get them as they're properly paged or keep the Americanized versions. So yes, this is the best of 2020 for me. Alright, in terms of goals for next year, I would like to obviously read a bit more. For the channel in particular, I'd like to have at least one video out a week, just to keep it alive. I'm afraid if I don't, it's just going to fizzle out. It also give me something to achieve every week. And I also really enjoyed the stitch along during Victober, so I decided that for January I'm going to do something like that on my own. I decided to knit along with another book. This weekend I'm hopefully going to start it. I'm going to buy Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. I'm not sure what I'm going to knit while I'm listening to it, but I will knit something. And of course, as I said, there's at least three videos that I need to do. As I said, of Mice and Men, Candide, and that Phantom book up there. Lots of words for that one. And there's some other knitting stuff that I would like to talk about, like getting into knitting and the various knitting books that I have. I wouldn't mind reviewing some of those if you're interested at all. If you're not, whatever. Also wondering if I should do book tags. I haven't done any. Probably should do at least one. Now I also know a little bit about more of what the various themes for some of the months are for BookTube. I know at least for October and November, I don't know if there's anything for the rest of the year. I'll just have to keep my peepers open for those. I will be able to plan better for Victober for 2021. I've already got Far from the Madding Crowd on the list for that. Maybe I'll do Hound of the Baskervilles for that too. But I will at least be doing Tom Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd for that one. And I also know now that November is nonfiction month, so I can better plan for that. Find something fun to read for that. And I'd also like to continue my banned book month in September. 1 week is just not enough. There's too many good books out there. The fact that books are still being banned and challenged and burned to this day is fascinating and frightening. And more people should be talking about them, I think. I'll have to find some other fun things to do for banned book month. I kind of rushed it a little bit and didn't plan very well my reading of Candide. It was fun, but it didn't leave me time to do much of anything else. And hopefully by this coming October, the world will be in a better place and my work schedule will not be quite so strange. For any fun suggestions for what to do for banned book month, I'm open to them. You can leave me a comment. Especially if you want to join me in reading along with banned books, I'd love that. For books that I wouldn't mind reading this year, there's one book that's been sitting by my bed for months now. It's C.S. Lewis's Until We Have Faces. That one I definitely will have to read this year, because it's time. It's just been sitting by my bed for too long. I need to bite the bullet and read it. Also open to any book suggestions. I don't read a lot of young adult books, so if you have any suggestions for any good ones or for any terrible ones, please let me know. I'm open to any suggestions. So yeah, that's all I have for right now. I will see you next year in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.